When should you use a Python class variable? Imagine you are building a program that keeps track of how many times a certain class has been used. Or maybe you want to store some data that all objects of a class should share. That's where class variables come into play. They are a handy tool in Python programming, especially when working with object-oriented programming. Class variables are defined inside a class but outside any methods, including the constructor. They are shared among all instances of that class. This means if you change the class variable, it updates for every object created from that class. It's different from instance variables, which are unique to each object. You should use a class variable when you want to keep a value or data consistent across all objects. For example, if you want to count how many objects you create, a class variable can hold that number. Every time you make a new object, you increase this count. This way, you don't need to store the same data in every object, saving memory. Another good use for class variables is to store constants or configuration settings that apply to all objects. For example, if you have a class for cars, you might store the maximum speed as a class variable. All cars share that same limit, so it makes sense to keep it in one place. Class variables are also useful for attributes that belong to the class itself, not just one object. For instance, if you have a class for students, you might want to store the school name as a class variable. All students go to the same school, so it's logical to keep that information shared. Let's look at a simple example. Suppose you have a class called employee. You want to keep track of how many employees you have. You can create a class variable called total employees. Every time you create a new employee object, you increase this count. When you print total employees, it shows the total number of employees created so far. Here's how it might look in code. Class employee. Total employees is equal to 0 hash. This is a class variable. Def init, self-name salary. Self-name is equal to name hash. This is an instance variable. Self-salary is equal to salary hash. This is also an instance variable. Employee total employees plus is equal to 1 hash. Increase the class variable each time a new employee is created. EMP1 is equal to employee, John, 50,000. EMP2 is equal to employee, Alice, 60,000. Print employee, total employees, hash. This will output to because 2 employees are created. Notice how the class variable total employees is shared among all instances. When a new employee is added, it updates for everyone. You can access class variables either through the class name or an object, but changing them should be done through the class name to keep things clear. In summary, use a Python class variable when you want to keep data that should be the same for all objects of a class. Whether it's a counter, a constant, or a shared setting, class variables help keep your code organized and efficient. They follow the principle of grouping related data and behavior within classes, making your programs easier to manage and understand.